Hey everybody, welcome into Redacted. I just realized when the screen goes black like that, it looks like our show is dacted, but it's not.
No, it was redacted and now it's not. Welcome into Redacted on this Wednesday edition. It's Hump Day edition of Redacted, so hump them if you got them.
Consensually.
I'm Clayton Morris.
For some of us.
Yeah.
I'm Natalie Morris.
That's right. And the voice you just heard is David, our producer, who is back following throat surgery. Deep Throat is back in the house.
He did have surgery very deep in his throat. He has a scar that he will show us if we ask. We're not asking right now. Hold it. No. Put that away, nearly headless Nick.
Right.
No, thank you.
So this is the show. Welcome into Redacted. This is the show where we try to hold powerful people to account. We don't have all the answers. We're not perfect, but we've spent 2 decades as journalists. We worked in the mainstream media. We left the mainstream media, trying to cover the stories that the mainstream media largely ignores. That's what this show is all about, right?
Indeed.
Yeah.
Yes.
So let's tell them what's coming up on the show today.
Okay, we're going to talk about the new inflationary numbers and the interest rate hike that the Fed just released. It's a jump, and it will make you jump.
Yeah, absolutely. We're also going to talk about sanctions and the huge trouble with the Russian sanctions. We're getting some troubling news from inside the Biden White House on just how troubling these sanctions actually are. But President Biden won't say it, but maybe his staff members will.
We're also going to talk about the physical and mental fitness of the president, and we are going to try and do so respectfully. I remind you two boys, respectfully.
Okay, in the same way that the same way that they provided respect when they did it to Donald Trump as well. So we'll do it with the same.
We're gonna be nice.
Yeah, we're gonna do
guys.
it with the same way that CNN did it a number of years ago when they took President Trump's mental capacity to task.
You got a school marm here to make sure that you're nice.
Yes, school marm, school nun is here, and we're also going to talk about. We're also going to talk. I want to leave that one to you. So on the screen you can see. I will take the Saudi Arabia story. So. President Biden does a 180 on Saudi Arabia, and guess what? There's a lot to unpack. President Biden is going to be traveling to Saudi Arabia, but as he says, it's not about oil. It's about other things. So we will unpack the hypocrisy there.
Well, specifically, we're going to talk about menstrual products and baby formula, these two things that are disproportionately hitting women. And there is right now a Senate hearing going on about baby formula, and it blew my mind. And we're going to get to that.
So Redacted starts right now. Welcome in, everybody, to the big show.
All right. We want to remind you that we have our own community separate from any of the platforms you might be watching us on. This is a place where we don't have to fear censorship or anything of that sort of thing that happens to content creators all too often. So please head on over to redacted.inc and join our community there. Also, if you're watching this on YouTube, we would appreciate it if you hit that like button, if you hit that subscribe button. That also helps YouTube push our content around to other like-minded individuals.
That's right. And I should mention our community at redacted.inc is as little as $4 a month. You get access to exclusive content also. So because we can't push out some of our censored content here on YouTube, we will be taken down. We will be deplatformed. And so we push out exclusive content like our interview with Dr. Peter McCullough. You got to go check out that interview. We have uncensored videos that we just simply can't release here on YouTube because they will deplatform us. So they are. It's built with Rumble infrastructure, and for as little as $4 a month over there, you can support us. But again, it's totally free if you want to go there and sign up. But if you want some of that extra exclusive content, we have a members only area. So you will just have to pay a little bit more, and that supports our show. We've got a whole infrastructure here, so that helps us. And we put all of anything you really help us with on the show goes right back into the show, into this show. It all is right here. So we've got a whole team here to really make this show shine. That's hard to say. Make this show shine.
Yes. Yeah. All right. So once again, I'm Natalie Morris. That's Clayton Morris. We have David. And is Philip going to participate today, or is David the?
I know we're not.
I'm around.
Oh,
Okay.
Philip is here. Okay, so I just want to get. So this was the way the format will be going forward. We've got a whole new super streaming setup, that a super computer that has just been ordered and is being worked on. Kevin is building all of that out right now. Philip is here running the show, technical director. David is here as our producer as well inside the studio. So there's a lot of moving pieces.
And I think maybe a more pertinent piece of information is that David and Philip are brothers, and we are married. So this is a family affair.
That's right.
Okay, so sometimes
Don't get those confused. Don't get those confused.
they're not
Natalie
married,
and Clayton
and
are
we're
not brothers, and David and I are
siblings.
not married.
Who knows? It's 2022 in America right now. I mean, you got to. Maybe we should at the beginning of every show frickin' label and give our pronouns out. How about
Well, we
that?
can give our pronouns, and we can also give our marital status.
Was it-
No.
No,
Don't.
You can't.
Nope.
What? Why?
Nope.
Why?
I know you're going to go on a tangent, and you're not going to go on that tangent. We're going to start with this story. Okay.
All right, let's start with the story then, because
All right.
we just got moments ago. Let's take this. So this is moments ago. We just got from the Federal Reserve. Yes, we were all waiting for Jerome Powell to have the FOMC meeting, the Federal Reserve meeting, to discuss interest rate hikes. I'm telling you, a few weeks ago, they said we were going to raise interest rates by 0.50 percentage points. They didn't. They scrapped that. It is now 0.75.
Actually, no. What we were told right before the new year was that we would only get rate hikes at 0.25 per time.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
Which would mean
So they upped
about
it.
1.5 for the entire year, right? So we as investors went into the year thinking that we will have no more than a one, because we started at zero, right?
Right.
So we thought we will end at no more than 1.5% for the federal interest rate. Well, that is not the case now. The Fed voted to increase the interest rate to zero by 0.75%.
This is huge. I mean, this is an admission to my mind, and I think this shows you that people are losing faith in this. This was a Washington Post front page.
Well, let's finish the news part of it, though, before we opine about it, because I want to make it clear that this is the largest single bump since 1994. And now there's speculation that by the end of the year, rates will be above 3%. So that's twice what we were told going into the beginning of the year.
Right. So to me, it's a huge admission, right? Yes, a few weeks ago they said 0.5. Earlier in the year, you're right, they said 0.25. So now they've literally in a few weeks, they're racing right now to get their hands on this. We're seeing
Right.
this in the United States. We're also seeing this in Europe and around the world right now. All of these powers that be, these central banks, are basically admitting that they don't know what the hell they're doing. The world is slowly waking up to the reality that these central bankers royally screwed us over. Here's a Bloomberg piece from today. Take a look at this Bloomberg headline earlier this morning, which said, market households lose faith that Fed can handle inflation. Markets and households lose faith that Fed can handle inflation.
I do have a bit of a problem with that headline because it implies that there was faith previously. Now, the Fed is an unelected body. They do have to vote in order to approve these interest rate hikes, but they pretty much voted together. Today, out of 10 people voting, 9 voted in favor of a 0.75 hike. Only 1 voted in favor of a 0.5 hike. Now, when we got the previous vote on our previous interest rate hike, which happened earlier in the year, it was the same, about 9 out of 10. So remember, these are 10 unelected people making these decisions.
So let's put up this other headline. So this one was, I think we had a reverse there. That was the Washington Post one. But here's the Bloomberg piece. Let's put the Bloomberg one back up here on the screen because I think this headline was pretty telling. There it is. World central banks got it wrong and economies pay the price. Policymakers are now moving much faster than telegraphed. Fed and peers hope to contain long-term inflation expectations. Even after central banks recognize that they got their inflation calls wrong last year, they've continued to flub their policy guidance, threatening greater damage to their credibility, roiling markets, and undermining the pandemic recovery. David, what is the what are gas prices? I would love to hear from our audience right now. Drop us a comment. What are the gas prices like where you live? You're out there in you're like in Alaska or something, right?
Yeah, I'm in Washington State, and we're
Might
at
as
like
well be.
$5.89, I think is what I paid. And I wanted to bring something up about this conversation as well that I'm kind of curious about. Like, when did the Treasury stop being part of the conversation? You remember back in like even 2008, they would talk about the Treasury. We don't hear about that anymore. They don't respond to anything.
No, Janet Yellen, I mean, just last week admitted she got it wrong on inflation. So she is the Treasury Secretary, but she punted. They punt to the Federal Reserve. Again, these are unelected people. And these central bankers are unelected and they control everything. And again, I have been beating this drum because it's true and it's real, and they've told us it's real, and the plan is unfolding from the World Economic Forum that they want to consolidate power. As Carol Roth on our show talked about, this is the greatest transfer of wealth we've ever seen in world history. The greatest transfer of wealth we've ever seen.
Yes.
And they are consolidating power. And by the way, when you think about these interest rate hikes, who gets screwed here? Who gets screwed in all of this? I mean, it's the little people. Home buyers. Who can you name anybody else? Gas buyers, food buyers, family buyers.
Yes, anyone who's buying consumer loans, right?
Right.
So, I mean, this Fed interest rate is not the interest rate that you will pay, right? Because it started at 0. Certainly, you weren't being offered free money,
right?
0% dollars, right? So then it went to 0.5% in May. Now we're up another 0.75%. So we're up to 1.25%. And that is sort of a bottom level usury rate by which other lenders base their loans off of. But usually the consumer price is 3 to 4 points higher than that, right? So those 2% interest rates we saw on home loans during the pandemic, good thing if you got one, right?
Linda Spain in our chat says 449 in Mississippi, which, usually areas of the country where gas would be cheaper, right? Mississippi, I mean, a Gulf state, right? So areas, so Linda Spain saying, and then you see Jim Taylor, 449 in Conway, Arkansas. We know in California, they keep saying $6, but there's people in Los Angeles and others who are saying it's upwards of $7, $8, $8. Like, we keep hearing this like $6 in California. Like, where in California are you getting $6 gas? It's way higher than that at this point.
Now, we have a super chat from the new Joe who says the low interest rates was one of the major problems. And I 100% agree. Keeping interest rates low has been a government perversion. Again, here's me using this word again, but every time governments pervert free markets, we're going to talk about this later when we talk about baby formula as well.
Well, it is hump day, so you can be perverted.
Every time governments pervert markets, right, it is holding there is something that wants to be happening that's being bottled that will come for us eventually. Like the 2008, crazy spending that the government went on, we never felt that because of this whack problem, this Walmart, Amazon, China that kept our prices low. So we have been waiting for the consequences of government perversion for, I want to say, 12 years, 14 years. So those of us who followed economics knew that this correction had to happen and was coming. And it hurts, but we're not surprised. What do you want to know?
I want to know how many of those companies not only got the 0% loans, but how many got subsidies on top of it, actually made money from those loans?
Oh, good question. I'm glad you asked that question because I actually happen to have a chart. I have a chart here. So let's go to this, and then we'll get to Biden in a second. But let me just explain what you're seeing here. This is a really important chart. Okay. So I put on your little wonky hat for a moment, and I let me actually come back to me for a second, because on this show, this is not like a mainstream media show where we're just going to quickly move on and not give you any context. Our goal on doing this show is to provide nuance, to provide some context for things, a little bit deeper analysis here on the show, because we have the time. It's our channel. We can do whatever the hell we want. So the Federal Reserve in 2008, put the chart back up, please, if you'd be so kind. In 2008, what we did, the Federal Reserve in 2008, created about $1 trillion in the Federal Reserves, okay, fake currency during the housing crisis. But they didn't actually create bank money during the housing crisis. You see that in green right there? They didn't actually do that. What they did in blue is the federal digital liabilities in the purple blue line, okay? And so the billions in the M2, the banking sector, basically stayed the same. And then what happened is that during this pandemic, they created $3.5 trillion in the year 2020. $3.5 trillion at the Federal Reserve. Then on top of that, this time around, they added $3.5 trillion to the banks. That's $7 trillion that they created and float. 3.5 to the banks,
Now just
3.5 in their own reserves, and it's all fake.
Is it because they
So what you're
eliminated
saying is the
fractional
Treasury-
reserve? Is that what you're saying?
In part, they eliminated the fractional reserve. That was a huge piece of what they did in 2020. But what they did was provided enormous liquidity to the banks. And the idea was that the banks were going to be lending like crazy. They were going to be providing all sorts of low interest loans to individuals and doing what they could. But a lot of these banks, the reason their profits are through the roof is because they artificially inflated their stocks by buying their own stocks back. So they bought their own stocks back, artificially inflated their value. That's why the banks are doing great on the backs of fake money. So this inflation was all inevitable. It was all like a plan. David, go ahead.
So I was just going to say, so rather than the Treasury printing the money, it was never printed. They just went in the computer and added some zeros.
Yeah, there's no printing of this money. There's no additional cash because remember, they told us during COVID, cash would have COVID on it. So you weren't allowed to touch paper dollars or coins because it had COVID on it. Literally, that's what they said.
Well, but even less than 4% of the money in the American economy exists in paper form anyway. So they didn't need to, right? Money is a system of beliefs that we all sort of get on board with.
So take my laptop if you would mind, Philip, here. So this is a little wrap up of what Fed Chair Jerome Powell just said a few minutes ago. And I like that the Fed Chair did say that the central banks cannot control all of the factors driving inflation, such as oil prices that have been pushed higher. So he's basically passing the buck here. I'm telling you what, oil prices have almost nothing to do with this. Absolutely, I mean, almost virtually nothing to do with this. The inflation has nothing to do with the price of oil. Like the cost of oil is because of, and we've talked about on this show before, the production of oil. Like that's it, right? And we'll get to sanctions in a few moments on exactly why we're feeling this.
And Saudi Arabia, which we will get to in a few moments as well. Yes.
But all of these factors driving inflation, the Fed Chair says, we don't control everything. No, you do, actually. You do control everything. You are literally working hand in hand with these other central banks, and you control everything. And that's why we're screwed right now. And the banks are fine. They're going to be fine. The little guy is going to be screwed, and that's just how it goes. But don't worry, President Biden spoke last night on the economy. Here's President Biden's plan to make sure that we fix this inflation problem. Listen.
What is this? Under my plan for the economy, we made extraordinary progress. And we put America in a position to tackle a worldwide problem is worse everywhere but here, inflation.
So he went on to say, we're going to tax the rich. Billionaires need to pay their fair share. That's our plan. That's my plan to combat inflation. You want to take this one?
No, I mean, there's a lot of little things there that I'd like to pick apart, like this, it's worse everywhere but here bit, right? And that's not true. There are countries that are doing actually pretty okay right now, but he's trying to tell you, you never had it so good.
Well, you know, we on this show talk a lot about reckless spending, right? I mean, we've been talking about this for months on this, or for quite a long time, right? The idea that we're going to send, I don't know, billions to wars around the world. We're going to continue to funnel the $850 billion to the defense budget, to the military-industrial complex, and not take care of our people at home, not fix our roads and bridges, not provide health care for people. And so President Biden last night, he's so fed up. Listen to how angry he is about me. He's talking about me. I really feel like he's talking about me, about all of this talk about reckless spending. He's sick of it. Listen.
I don't want to hear any more of these lies about reckless spending. We're changing people's lives.
Can you play that again, Philip? I just like how indignant he is. Play it again.
I don't want to hear any more of these lies about reckless spending. We're changing people's lives.
I don't want to hear any more of those lies either.
He's changing people's lives.
We're
David.
like that on this. I don't want to hear. I don't want to hear lies
I mean, to be
about
fair,
how
he didn't
reckless
say he's
spending
changing them in
is
a
not
positive way.
right.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, he doesn't want to hear any more about reckless spending. Like, he just wants to spend as much as possible. He doesn't want to hear about it. He just wants to make sure that billionaires are paying their fair share. Like, that's going to solve everything. Is that if billionaires pay their fair share of what? I don't know exactly. But then we're going to fix everything.
They pay No, then they're going to take the money from the billionaires, just like Elon Musk has said. He's like, why would I want to give this inefficient government more money to waste? Because all they're going to do is take that money, and the military is going to be like, oh my gosh, we've got more, you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about sanctions now. So there has been a lot of talk, as I think all of this is tied together, about Russian sanctions, right? This was the call from, this was, of course, the big push from Western leaders, the EU, United States of America, that this is all Putin's price hike. So we're going to sanction the hell out of him. We're going to steal Russian oligarchs' boats and ships. We're going to make sure that the Russian economy collapses so that Putin can't wage this aggression in Ukraine anymore. That was the plan, right? Well, now we're starting to see the cracks and fissures here back home. And specifically, because we keep hearing from the Biden administration that the economy is doing fantastic. Like we've heard that repeatedly, right? Retailers are now. This is
He's
the first
talking about
data.
Russia, because it is actually doing fantastic in Russia.
Well, yeah.
Well, yeah, actually, the Moscow Exchange is up another 1.28% today. Yesterday, on what was a bloody Monday on the U.S. stock market, it was up 4%, right? And so I think it's interesting to talk about how if we think we're hurting them, we're not.
Right. So let's take a look at these retail numbers. These are just out this afternoon. So again, now this is the first kind of real fissure that we're seeing from retailers. Lower retail sales are the latest evidence of a cooling economy. So we've been hearing that this economy is burning and churning. Even before the Fed's announcement today, there are already tentative signs that the economy may be cooling. The latest evidence, the Commerce Department on Wednesday, that's today, reported that retail sales fell in May. Okay. Now that it's summertime almost, everyone's out going to be spending and booking vacations and stuff. So it fell in May, and it rose by less than in April that they initially believed. The drop was small, just 0.03%. Nevertheless, this is a time May. People are out, right? They're buying ice cream.
Sure.
They're shopping. They're at the beaches, right? They're booking
Ice
Airbnb.
cream.
I just feel like, I picture that like now everyone's down at the beach at the Jersey Shore, walking the boardwalk, getting the ice cream and stuff.
You're not having ice cream. That's why the economy is suffering.
Exactly.
I mean, it feels like very dizzying when retailers have been telling us all along that, hey, the pandemic's over and shoppers are back, right? Women are buying lipstick again because mask mandates are being released, and people are buying clothes with zippers, whereas before they weren't. Well, apparently
Clothes
they're
with
not.
zippers? What the hell does that mean?
That's because when you stay home, you don't put on clothes with zippers that might feel uncomfortably tight.
You just wear your fat pants.
You wear things that are, that have, and so there were literally articles within the last 6 months about how zippers are back and people want to put on form-fitting clothes. And I felt actually very excited the first time I put zipper clothes on after I gave birth to my children. So I can attest.
I have
to
Adidas
how this
sweatpants with
feels.
zippers on the sides right now.
Doesn't count. No, it has to be zipper up the waistline. Yeah, or
I'm not
down
even-
the back.
I'm not even wearing pants right now. That's how comfortable I am in this show.
Right, but I think that my reason for bringing these things up is that these stories were telling us happy times are here again. Everyone, it's okay. You can spend. People are spending on these luxury items like zipper clothes and lipsticks, right? And I think that was more of a media wish list than reality.
Well, here's an interesting tweet on these sanctions because it kind of leads us to what the Biden administration is now having. I think there's a reckoning coming. We've been talking about this sort of reckoning over the past week or so, but now here's Saleha tweet that she sent out today. New, this just in, some Biden officials privately expressed concern that rather than dissuade the Kremlin as intended, U.S. sanctions have instead exacerbated inflation.
You think?
Worsened food insecurity and punished ordinary Russians more than Putin or his allies. I mean, this is like from the filing cabinet, like the no-duh filing cabinet, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and this is all sort of based on what this report from Bloomberg overnight from Biden officials worrying on sanctions. Biden officials concerned that Russia sanctions, this is from antiwar.com from Dave DeCamp, citing a Bloomberg piece, but Biden officials concerned Russia sanctions hurting ordinary people more than Putin. Bloomberg reported on Tuesday that some Biden administration officials are privately expressing concern that sanctions on Russia are worsening the global food crisis, exacerbating inflation, and hurting ordinary Russians.
Just now, though, I think this is only just now getting to the media. Otherwise, they have to have been asking this question months ago when they ran their economic models on what will this sanction do, right? That's easy to model. It's easy to just put in your computer and see what will be the effect of X.
Right. So let's run it ourselves.
Well,
right?
and what's frustrating is people don't.
Go ahead, David.
I was going to say, people don't get the updates of, like, they think, okay, there's all these sanctions on Russia, so they have to be doing really bad. Where people don't know that our economy is very bad. Theirs is actually doing pretty good, and they're winning in other ways too. They just lost all the nasty fast food chains that we have to keep here.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. They got rid of McDonald's. They got rid of Pizza Hut. I mean, Russia's going to be
Subway, Starbucks.
Russia's cholesterol is going to be going down. Like, they're doing great all around. The Russian ruble is going up. Everything else.
Yes.
So let's run this economic model. Let's play this out. Let's role play it.
Oh,
if we
no,
can.
you need sophisticated software to do that.
No, you don't. Even people as dumb as me can just kind of run it. So let's see. We're going to cut off grain to the rest of the world. We're going to block. We're going to make sure that
But
that
no,
shipping
that's
ports.
what they told us they were going to do, is block grain. But according to the United States State Department, you brought the screenshot that showed that food and agricultural supplies were exempted.
Yeah, they were exempted, but the main problem, of course, was the ports weren't. So as Sergei Lavrov and the Russians have said, hey, we have the grain ready to transport, but the port operators are under sanction and they don't want to receive the shipping. So as soon as you guys let us park the ships there, we got your grain. We got your grain right here. Also, let's think about oil prices, right? We've got oil pipelines, any number of other issues coming out of Russia that we are now sanctioning, right? So
Yes.
that we can't have access to. And it's going to show up in computer components. It's going to show up in rare earth metals. It's going to hit everything. And where did it hit first? It hit Africa first, of course, right? And then it hits Europe. And then it hits the United States. And we had an expert on the show the other day who said he believes that Europe's going to really take it in the rear first, right?
Yes. Yes, because the United States only imported 8% of its oil reserve or oil usage out of Russia. So, anyone who's saying that it's Putin's price hike is just not looking at the things that they buy. I think most people realize when you go into your cabinets to see, where's my food coming from? Where's my gas coming from? Most of your produce, if you're an American, comes from Mexico or California, right? Most of your consumer goods comes from an Asian country. Very little of what Americans buy comes from Russia. It's not going to hurt Americans first.
Yeah, and it's self-destructive because Putin has said, I'm going to fulfill all the oil and orders and stuff that I have. The oil is there. The gas is there. Like all the whatever exports we have, they are there for you to take it. If you don't take it, you're doing that to your own citizens.
Yes, and the problem with this oil, right, or any of these things is that the supply is still there, right? So it's not like the supply is all of a sudden gone. Like Russia did not make these food products or agricultural products or gas products. So the market will respond to what is available, not to what is like available politically or not, right? And so global prices are based on global availability, right? And so just cutting the West off from this supply chain does not actually affect the prices of it if there's still a free market based on what is available. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if I said that as well as I could, but
well, we could always say things better than we could, right? I do that every night. But I think you made sense. Let us know in the chat what you think about this. I want to hear from people in the chat. Tell me your gas prices where you are. And also in the chat, in your comments, drop me a comment. I want to hear what items are you noticing the biggest increase? Is it rent? Is it your food at the grocery store? Is it your gas prices, your heating oil? Like, what specifically have you discussed with your husband or wife or your partner, what you've noticed internally? Drop us a comment on that.
I was telling Clayton today that filling up the car is equal to a car payment these days, like some car payments, because
we have an old Volvo. It's like it's like 6 years old now.
Yeah, but it's the big mama with the third row because we have 3 kids. And so it's the XC90, and it's
The family truckster.
It's huge, and it takes up a lot of gas. And filling it up is like, if I fill it up twice, that's equal to what, when I still had payments on it, what equal to a car payment.
Yeah, now it's like 6 years later, it's paid off. So,
Yeah.
but I mean, think about all the small business owners watching our show right now who have multiple cars. They have to, or a landscaping company. I mean, I used to do landscaping for my summers. I'd be mowing like 60 lawns a day with the team that I worked on in Pennsylvania. And holy smokes, we were constantly stopping at the gas station, filling up.
Yeah.
In Pennsylvania, we'd stop at the Wawa and fill up the tanks and fill up all the weed eaters, the weed whackers, and all the lawnmowers and all of that stuff. And I can only imagine like what these companies are dealing with right now.
I remember when I had my BMW in high, it was like in 1984. What year was this? Maybe 1988. I filled up with premium gas at 99 cents a gallon.
I remember that. I remember, my first, I had a 1989, well, a few years later, but I remember gas prices low, 1989, 1990. When I learned to drive, I had a 1998 Ford Escort, was my Ford Escort that I drove when I first started to drive in 1993. And it was like 99 cents, 98 cents,
Yeah.
like roughly right around there.
Yeah, I mean, you could do like 89 cents for like regular, because there was regular, then premium unleaded. And it was like just 99 cents for premium. And now you look at it, premium's like, here is like $6.13 or something like that.
But I'm not sure, and I don't have the economic analysis on this, but I'm not sure that 99 cents was the price of gas, a free market price, right?
Well,
So a lot of the things that we have been paying for, again, we've been putting off this economic pain by buying cheaply produced, mass-produced goods for so long, but this market correction has been coming for us for a long time. And, because of these subsidies for food, I did an interview with Robert Glennon, who wrote the book Unquenchable, about water crisis. And specifically, he talks about farmers. And I think he says that only 20% of every dollar that we spend goes to the farmers in America, which is shocking, right? One, because, well, maybe we're not eating enough vegetables, but two, because of farm subsidies and other sort of wasteful ways of farming. And we pay the least amount of our paychecks, the lowest percentage of our paychecks on food than any other nation because of our addiction to cheaply produced goods, our addiction to junk, and also just, subsidies that keep prices artificially low. So even though this feels awful, right, this is closer, I want to say, to like the cost of things. But because of, again, government perversion, it's not, right? So if there was like a reason to go through this pain so we could get to this, like we're paying the actual price of things, that would be one thing, but that's not what this is.
Well, and again, it's all inflated. So I was going to say, we give 55% of our tax dollars go to the military industrial complex. I think it's over 55% actually, but it's like the dollar, because they keep printing it, like we might have been paying the actual price of things, but we were paying the actual price of things by money that was not inflated, actual money that was backed by gold. Now that it's like not back, they just print it. So you're right. There is, because what is the market value now? Because everything is arbitrary now.
Yeah.
Well, it's all totally perverted. And on this hump day, we can talk about all these perversions and all these perversions of markets. And that's exactly what the Fed is doing to us right now. They are perverting our way of life.
Or maybe they're trying to unpervert because they have been perverting for so long.
We'll see. Yeah, maybe.
They couldn't have kept it at zero. It was already too low.
It's too late. And it's way too little. It's way too much too late. And that's the problem. Now they're ramping it up so fast, and it's doing it in a way that's throttling the markets.
I don't agree with that.
All right. Well, take a look at what's happening in the market today. I mean, look at retail prices.
I think it's very late. I think it's very artificial, but I think that this was an appropriate jump. I think they had to.
But my point is they should have done it a long time ago, and it should have never been kept this way.
That's not the point you just made.
I think it's too much too late. Like now they're doing it all at once instead of having done it incrementally
like Ron Paul
before.
said. Ron Paul said in 2008 they should have just let everything crash. It would have been a hard road to
Yes.
get back, but we would have been back, and we would have been back by now.
Yeah, exactly. All right, we got to move on. Let's talk about, we're going to talk about Biden's health here in a second, his mental fitness. We're also going to talk about Saudi Arabia, and we're going to talk about missing tampons. But first, I do want to remind all of you, please, please, please smash that like button while you're watching us live right now. What happens is when you do that, it pushes us out further in the YouTube algorithm. So just take a moment. There's over 11,000 of you watching live right now. Please just smash the like button, and it'll push us out to the people that need to see this, to need to see real news, and not the billionaire-backed mainstream media. So please, please, please go ahead and do that. It takes a few seconds, and the show is free. So we're giving it to you for free. That's all my ask. That's like my only little ask is to do that. All right, let's talk about this. The unthinkable is actually starting to happen as liberals are actually starting to think twice and have a little panic now about President Biden. They were hoping that he wasn't going to run for a second term. That was what they all initially thought was going to happen because he told us he was going to run for one term. Remember that? Then he changed his mind. Here's Karine Jean-Pierre. She's the White House press secretary. She took over for Jen Psaki. She tweeted this the other day saying, just a reminder, to be clear, as the president has said repeatedly, he plans to run in 2024. Now, that's the most emphatic declaration yet because he kind of said it, but he didn't really make it like a declarative, I'm running for president in 2024. He's kind of like mentioned it offhandedly to like when my kids ask him the question, he kind of says it. So she has to come out and tweet it that he's actually going to do it.
They must have all gotten a talking to because they were all like kind of really avoiding that question. Like AOC was asked, like several of them have been asked. She was actually asked and she like walked all over it. So he must have been like, you guys need to quit undermining me or something. And then now she's tweeting it out emphatically like, okay, yes, he is.
Right. AOC is still not confirmed that she will support him. But yes, we've sort of been warmed to the idea. The press has picked up on little nuances where people are talking about, what, 2024 election? We're doing this? But now, okay, we have a declarative sentence. So they are doing this.
But, liberals are now throwing this out there. I mean, this was on the front page of the New York Times on Sunday. So this is the front page story from the New York Times. Biden in 2024? Many in party whisper no. And the piece dives deep. It interviews David Axelrod, of course, who is former Obama lackey David Axelrod. And let's put this up on the screen. So I'm going to read this. This is David Axelrod quoted here towards the end of this, but I'll read this. To nearly worries about age and a successor. I mean, these are in the pages of the New York Times. To nearly all the Democrats interviewed, the president's age, 79 now, but 82 by the time the winner of the 2024 election is inaugurated, is a deep concern about his political viability. They've watched as a commander-in-chief who built a reputation for gaffes has repeatedly rattled global diplomacy with unexpected remarks that were later walked back by the White House staff, and he has sat for fewer interviews than any of his recent predecessors. Now, here's David Axelrod, quote, the presidency is a monstrously taxing job, and the stark reality is the president would be closer to 90 than 80 at the end of a second term, and that would be a major issue, said David Axelrod, the chief strategist for Barack Obama's two winning presidential campaigns. By the way, the Obamas, I mean, they don't like him. They don't like Biden to begin with.
You think that?
I know that. And Team Biden, in fact, Politico, in quoting President Obama just over the weekend, are reminding all of us that President Obama said, it's just like Joe, to don't underestimate Joe Biden's ability to F something up. That's from Barack Obama.
In what context? I mean, I guess you don't need context for that.
You don't, because he has an unbelievable knack for effing things up. And so, to their point in this New York Times piece, think about the things we've covered here on the show recently.
But wait. Back that up. Who did he say that to?
I don't know. I don't have it off the top of my head.
Okay,
but
so you don't know what he was saying
I can look
about.
it up. Give me a second. If you want me to look it up,
No,
I
I
will.
don't. I want you to qualify that you think the Obamas don't like the Bidens. I didn't.
No, all you needed to look at, absolutely not. All you needed to look at was Obama showing back up at the White House and doing that little jab at him, and then hanging out in the White House, shaking hands with everyone, and basically ignoring the president in one of the saddest video clips that I've ever seen, where he the President Biden wanders around the room.
You think he was dunking on him in a disrespectful way?
Yeah. Absolutely. He just doesn't like him. He doesn't like him. And that's the case. I mean, it's kind of well documented. You don't need me to say it. But I think David Axelrod, being a chief Obama strategist, pointing this out, they're not happy with it. They don't like it. And frankly, they want him to step aside. I mean, he was only going to run once. Now he's not. And now he's going to run again 2 years from now after the disaster of an administration that they've had so far. Will they run the White House? They run the House of Representatives and the Senate. Go ahead.
Could you imagine the Democrats' reaction if Trump would have said we need to take Putin out of power? Mm-hmm. Could you imagine
we need regime change?
What would have happened?
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Is that again, this New York Times piece was pointing out these gaffes recently that we've highlighted here on the show. We need to have Putin. We need to have Putin thrown out of power. Right. We need a regime change in Russia. Are you out of your freaking mind? Then a number of other gaffes, and then the White House staff had to walk it back and clarify. Well, he didn't really mean what he said.
Yes. Yeah.
So we talked about AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She was on State of the Union this weekend with Dana Bash. And Dana asked her, the president has announced he's running for president in 2024. Do you support him? Will you support him in 2024? Here's her answer.
We'll cross that bridge when we get to it, but I think if the president has a vision, then that's something certainly we're all willing to entertain and examine when the time comes.
That's not a yes.
I believe that the president has been doing a very good job so far, and should he run again, I think that I think it's we'll take a look at it.
She closed her eyes a lot there. Can I just?
We'll take a look at it. We'll take a look at it. I don't know who I'm going to, I threw my support behind you. Let's kind of rack the clock a little bit here from the progressives, right? The Progressive Caucus. They said they were going to support him.
Yes, but I don't want to hear her throw him under the bus, though, and say, well, we didn't get all our progressive agenda because you didn't,
yes,
put
very
it
good.
up. Because she didn't push for anything. She voted along party lines her whole term.
But she tweeted a lot.
Sure. But if she's going to say, well, I can't support him because I didn't get what I wanted, when you did support him in all the sort of party line lockstep measure, then then that's just a political move.
Yeah, I agree. And, so you have...
Well, and also just the way she said that, sorry.
Go ahead.
We'll entertain his ideas. We'll entertain you, Joe. We'll entertain your ideas. You just go over there and thank you. We got your ideas. You go have a seat. We'll entertain that.
Yeah. He's a fun old man. I have two theories. I'm of two minds of this. One, Democrats really want someone strong, a leader. Of course, they're throwing Kamala Harris under the bus, so she's not going to be the candidate. Who are they going to put up? I don't know. I have no idea. Beto O'Rourke, maybe?
Right. Well, the interview, the New York Times piece that we referenced just right now sort of talks about the lack of a clear successor in the Democratic Party, right? And so they think that Biden is the only one who could really stop Trump. I can't get my head around that calculation any more than any new person.
Given the conditions right now, I can't fathom. I absolutely cannot fathom. When you ask, I saw a survey among Democrats who voted for Biden. Would you support, if he was up against Trump, would you support him? And they're like, no, only 5. It was a ridiculously low number in this recent survey. I just can't find any way to say that that's actually going to happen, that he would actually support, that Trump would actually lose to Biden if he ran right now. I'm not saying I want that to happen. I'm just saying I just can't believe that would actually happen.
No, but I also can't calculate how Biden would be. I do think that they need a new person. If the Democrats do want to go up against Trump, I don't think it's either of the people in the White House right now. I can't get down without calculation.
Okay, so we had New York Times, right? We had New York Times making their comments about this. We had AOC not fully on board. But then, of all things, we see CNN questioning Biden's mental health. Here's Don Lemon on CNN questioning Biden's mental health. Watch.
Does the president have the stamina, physically and mentally, do you think, to continue on even after 2024?
you're asking me this question. Oh my gosh, he's the president of the United States. You know, I can't even keep up with it. We just got back from New Mexico. We just got back from California. That is not a question that we should be even asking. Just look at the work that he does. Look how he's delivering for the American public. Look, that article that we're talking about is hearsay. It's salacious.
She can't answer the question.
You know what I think?
Well, that's
my
not to
theory
say she's not
is-
doing a good job. She's deflecting like she should, right?
Yeah.
What
David,
is your
you had a theory?
My theory is
That's
that
not
if
what
you're
we care
hearing that
about.
from Dana
We
Bash, you're
care
hearing that
about
from him.
how are we going.
Go ahead.
The donors have spoken. That's what happened. The donors have spoken.
Actually, the New York Times piece that we're referencing does say that donors have lost confidence in Biden and pulled back donations to his campaign, which is interesting, right? Because are we insinuating that donors influence elections, right? That donors decide?
Oh, of course they do.
Right.
I mean, that's the thing. You're not going to see these establishment newscasts coming out asking these questions if the donors did not approve it. If somebody had to approve that, because they would not do that. They stay right lockstep with the establishment. So that tells me that the establishment has shifted and they want Biden out.
So let's continue that clip with Jean-Pierre and see if she actually tries to answer. So she was avoiding the question. Let's see if Don Lemon actually pushes her on this question.
To deliver for the American people. How are we going to make their lives better? That's what the president talks about. That is his focus. And that's where we're going to continue to focus on.
All right. So no. So I guess not. So no, the answer is no. I'm not going to answer that question. Is he mentally fit for office? But CNN did, if we move ahead to this Trump question, you recall when CNN did multiple segments when President Trump was president, right? And there was lots of questions about mental health, mental fitness of President Trump. CNN, I did on their New Day show, on their afternoon show, on their nighttime show. They did multiple segments about Trump's mental fitness. And the reason I bring that up is because
and his
liberals...
physical fitness. Remember, we got that super fun physical summation from that doctor with the crazy hair. It's like, he's one of the fittest people I've seen, right? It was full of sort of extreme sentences. And we all rang in on that and took that as a valid thing to be asking.
The reason I bring this up in comparison to Trump is because since this CNN interview with Jean-Pierre, lots of liberals on Twitter, how dare, I can't believe they're asking about, Biden's mental health. Blue check liberals, how I can't believe they're asking about that. That's so impolite. How can you ask about a person's mental health? Well, when they are the leader of the free world, it's a legitimate question. And so here is CNN. Here is Jamie Raskin, Congressman Jamie Raskin on New Day on CNN being asked this question. And he talks about how important it is. He's like, but I'm separating myself from it. But I think it's important. Take a listen.
Well, the 25th Amendment in Section 4 says that the vice president in the cabinet or the vice president in a body set up by Congress can determine that there's presidential incapacity for reasons physical or mental. And I think that concerns have been raised from the very beginning of the presidency about the cognitive state of the president, the emotional state of the president, and his ability to take care that the laws are faithfully executed, which is the principal job of the president of the United States. And so I don't take a position on whether or not the president currently has capacity or incapacity, but I'm taking the position that we've got a constitutional responsibility to act under the 25th Amendment to set up the body that's been called for.
Oh,
yes,
interesting.
This was a big part of the conversation, if you recall.
Jamie Raskin.
The 25th Amendment, yes. How long can we let Trump go if we don't think he's sane?
So Jamie Raskin, Democrat, by those same standards, then you would think, he's like, I'm being impartial here. I'm not going to make a comment about the president's mental health, but the 25th Amendment, it's something we should look at. It's something we should put forward, right? If by that same measure, then why wouldn't you do that for President Biden? It's an interesting question.
And I think in the same way we discussed this about Dianne Feinstein, was it? No, Barbara. Yeah. Yes, Dianne Feinstein. We talked about this recently. How many of her staffers have been saying that she struggles to keep up with the schedule she once did, and she's not as sharp as she once was. And I think we discussed this in a respectful way, but it's worth noting that the average American is in their 30s. I think 36 is the age of the average American, when the average age of a congressional representative is in their late 70s, right? And so is it comfortable or advisable for people who are much, much older to be making decisions for people who are much, much younger, people who are in their late 30s?
I mean, we don't
have this is not even the age of their parents, it's the age of their grandparents, right? The average age of Congress and the president. Most people don't want their parents still making decisions for them, right? The problem is that we don't know enough people that are our age, and I'm putting myself in that even though I'm not 36, that we think we can get to the national stage right now in electability.
Well, and I was going to say, some of those people have probably had to retire their driver's license, like, and I think people argue for term limits. I could totally get on board with age limits. Like, I don't feel like people that old need to be in there running this country, because they have such a, look at all the change that has happened from when they were young, and it's like these people still hold on to these old ideals. Yeah. And you need new ideas constantly coming in.
One of the things that we show in our pre-show is an interview, or is President Biden. President Biden, he sits down with, he's in a Senate hearing and he's grilling Scott Ritter. We show that clip a lot on this show, right? He's chastising Scott Ritter for basically finding no weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, right? And he's like sharp. He's like, and he's like really like articulate, and he's, firing at him. You can tell he's firing on all cylinders. And then you watch him on Jimmy Kimmel the other night, and it was really sad. I mean, Jimmy Kimmel is having to finish his sentences. And I know from being in the media for many, many years, when you see a guest sort of struggling, you're going to try to help them a little bit, right? You're going to try to help them make their point so we can move on. That's what happens,
and
right?
make your guest look good.
Yeah.
Most people want to do that.
And that's what he's doing. He's trying to make Biden look good.
Unfortunately, though, the way Jimmy did it, in my opinion, didn't make him look good, because he was doing it like you do it with a child. He was being very, but you did very good. You did very good with that. It's like it was more like you're not going to do that with a regular guest.
Maybe, or with maybe a president who is a bit less fragile. Do we have tape?
Yeah, let's watch this.
Let's roll
so here's Jimmy Kimmel.
I'm serious. You turn on the TV, look at the ads. When's the last time you saw biracial couples on TV? When's the last time you saw the way, people are selling products. They do ads to sell products, and they sell products when they appeal to people. This generation is going to change everything. We just got to make sure we don't give up. There's an ability for us to do everything from increase the access to education, healthcare. Look what we did in healthcare. All the talk about it. I was able to reduce people's bills about $400 a month.
It has changed people's lives for the better. No question about it.
So there's a lot of major things we've done. But what we haven't done is we haven't been able to communicate it in a way that is, let me say another way.
Well, see, that's kind of perfect. Yeah, we haven't been able to communicate it.
But look how the press has changed. Mm-hmm. Look how the press has changed.
It has changed. Oh, listen, I get it.
I know you overstand it.
Could you pause it there for a second?
You overstand it.
So we'll go back to it here. We got another few seconds of this, but he makes the point that, we don't have, the press has changed. We don't have we don't have a mockingbird press that just regurgitates anything we want and doesn't press us and lets us be and lets us communicate and lets us get our message out there effectively and lets us here's what we want to say, you take it and run with it. And that's exactly what the Obama administration had. They had an absolute stenographer-based press corps that took what the president and the White House released on press releases, and it showed up in the New York Times. So he's upset that the press is not just taking their talking points and regurgitating it on the economy. Let's listen to the rest of it.
But here's the deal. One of the things is that it's very difficult now to have even with notable exceptions, even the really good reporters, they have to get the number of clicks on nightly news. Mm-hmm. So instead of asking a question, anyway, everything gets sensationalized in ways but I'm convinced we can get through this. We have to get through it. And one of the things, look,
I'm going to take a break, and then we'll talk a little bit more, if you don't
blame
mind.
you.
I'm sorry. We have some of those commercials.
I
We
don't
have some
blame you.
biracial commercials we need to show. We'll be back with President Biden.
Biracial commercials? Like, what the hell is that? I don't even know what that means.
I don't know. I mean, but it is a lot. Like when Trump would speak, you're like, I know where you're going with this. You're not going to bring that into a declarative sentence. There's no period on that sentence, but I can see what you're trying to say.
Well, I see it.
We
I saw it
shouldn't
my
have
dad.
to do that with our leaders.
I saw that with my dad, who was 86 when he passed away last year. And I saw, I mean, he had a stroke. He had a couple of strokes and over the years. And you could tell, I mean, it was a struggle for him to put, a cohesive sentence together. I mean,
Yes.
hey, I'm 45. It's difficult for me to put a cohesive sentence together, but I could see it in my father, like declining over those last few years.
But also, Clayton's dad was a pretty healthy guy, all things considered. And by the time he was in his mid 80s, he needed to go to bed at 6 p.m., right? Like he was sleepy, would eat his dinner, and literally was like in his pajamas at 7:30 and asleep by 8:30. And I think it's worth talking about how the body, no matter how healthy it is, needs to slow down. I hate leaving the house at 9 p.m., after 9 p.m.
Yeah, when I find like we're going to go out to dinner for like some special occasion, I'm like, wait a minute, I hope that happens at noon, because maybe that's just where home
I mean, we are,
bodies,
okay, I want to speak for ourselves, right? But I do know that as the body gets older, you need to sleep a bit more. You get tired easily. And this is like the presidential schedule is something that I want nothing to do with. And I'm 43, right? So, yeah.
Well, and also it's kind of frustrating, too, that during when he was running and everything, when you watch him in the past, he didn't stutter, but he's declined so much that now he kind of stutters on what he's saying. So they said, oh, no, he's always stuttered. And now people defend this, the way he talks, saying, no, he's always had a stutter.
Wait, no,
but
that's
if you go back
true.
and watch anything
he does
before,
actually, he was clinically diagnosed with a stutter.
Yes.
And in fact, that was part of his campaign where he had a little boy who came on his, that was on his like election materials, where a little boy who had a stutter said, oh, I'd like to tell you that I really like to see you succeed because I also had a stutter. And he's talked about this when he was running in for vice president, about how he was diagnosed with a stutter and had to get over it for public speaking. So that, at least we should give him credit for.
Well, I never
That's
saw it
not-
in any of his.
Yeah, that's easy to find. Just look at that little boy who was like embracing him for overcoming stuttering as a small child.
No, but I think so that is true. What Natalie's saying is true, but what David is saying is also true, is that now you're seeing blue check liberals, instead of talking about a mental decline, they're saying, oh, stop making fun of his stutter. It's like, no, it's two different things. If you watch his Senate hearings from 20 years ago, it's a different human being. It's a totally different human being running things now in the White House. Compare those two sound bites, and maybe we'll do it as this conversation unfolds more deeply. Maybe if Jamie Raskin wants to invoke the 25th Amendment, maybe we'll have a deeper discussion about this. But just play those two tapes
and
side
even
by
as recent
side.
as when he was vice president.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So more on that. Did you know that, there's actually a couple of good books on this, by the way. If you want to stop the aging brain, you can do that. There are proven steps to prevent dementia, sharpen your mind, and actually you can take advantage of this by going to Audible. So our show sponsor today is Audible. And look, you're constantly on the go, you're driving, you're out there on the go, you're walking the dog, you're doing other things, and you want to read books, but maybe you just don't have the time to sit down and actually pick up a physical book. Well, that's where Audible comes in, because it allows you to go through and read so many great books, so many great classics, and new bestsellers that you wouldn't have otherwise. Audible offers an incredible selection of audiobooks across every genre. So take a look at my screen here, Philip, on my laptop, which is The Aging Brain. We're talking about this right now. Proven steps to prevent dementia. Sharpen your mind. This is a free book that you can get, right? I mean, and we need to, I know we're talking about President Biden, but we all need to do things right to protect our brain health.
Sure.
And you can get this book for free on Audible. One of the ways you can do that, all you need to do when you, to get this free book, is just text, okay? All you need to do is grab your phone and just text the word redacted to 500-500. And Audible can help you discover new ways to laugh, be inspired, be entertained. New members can try Audible for free for 30 days when you visit audible.com/redacted. You can go to the website. Or you can text the word redacted to 500-500. That's audible.com/redacted. Or text the word redacted to 500-500. Try Audible free for 30 days. Audible.com/redacted. We have a book, by the way. Natalie and I wrote a book
Yes, we do.
on how to pay off your mortgage in 5 years. We are investors. This is something that we are very passionate about. So we actually have an audio book available on Audible that you can get for free, and it'll help you pay off your mortgage in 5 years or less. It's a really powerful investing tool that you can find just by going to audible.com. There it is. Pay off your mortgage in 5 years. How to pay off your mortgage in 5 years. And I do the audio for it. I recorded the audio, so I'm the voice for that audio book on Audible.
Also, I'm taking suggestions on Audible books that for summer road trips. So you can find both Clayton and I on Goodreads and send us those suggestions, things that will go well with kids who are middle graders.
So as an Audible member, you can choose one title per month to keep from their entire catalog, including the latest bestsellers and new releases. So let us know in the chat. Do you have a great book that you would like to recommend for summer road trips right now? Drop them in the chat. Drop them in the comments. Again, you can try it for free. Get your first free book. Try it free for 30 days, and then you get to keep the book afterwards after you continue with them. Their Audible app is fantastic, by the way. I use it every day. Absolutely love it. So our thanks to Audible for supporting the show. All right.
Okay, we're going to tell you about Saudi Arabia because we're going to follow the money. Now, President Biden will in fact visit Saudi Arabia on his upcoming trip to the Middle East. This has been speculated about for days, but it was now confirmed. So why do we care? Well, one reason is that on the campaign trail, President Biden promised to give the cold shoulder to Saudi Arabia.
Khashoggi was in fact murdered and dismembered, and I believe in the order of the Crown Prince. And I would make it very clear, we were not going to in fact sell more weapons to them. We were going to in fact make them pay the price and make them in fact the pariah that they are. There's very little social redeeming value in the present government in Saudi Arabia.
Okay, very little social redeeming value, right? But we're going to talk about the economic redeeming value. Now, he mentions here Khashoggi. He's talking about Kamal Khashoggi, who was a Saudi-born journalist that was violently murdered after he was captured at the Saudi embassy in Turkey. He was actually lured there when he was trying to get married, and they told him he needed this specific document. The CIA says that the Saudi government was responsible. Most people agree on that. In fact, intelligence was that 7 of the 15 hitmen were the personal bodyguards of MBS. Now, MBS is the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman. So will the president meet with MBS? The first question was, okay, are you going to Saudi Arabia when you said you wouldn't? Yes. Okay. Are you going to meet with MBS? According to The Guardian, right? The White House said it had no new travel plans to announce, but made clear there was no barrier to Biden meeting the Crown Prince. So when The Guardian reported this meeting a few weeks ago, it said that this meeting, now listen to this, is the culmination of half a dozen of discreet visits to the Saudi kingdom over the last 2 years by President Biden's top Middle East advisor, Brett McGurk, and his special envoy for energy affairs, Amos Hochstein. So the Biden administration is doing this, and it's a big deal, but they have been doing this. And in a second, I'm going to tell you more about why they're going to do this.
Well, let's backtrack a little bit because there's some things I wanted to say, which is about, look, the way that they took Trump to task for this. Remember when President Trump went and it was the whole pomp and circumstance with him doing the dance with the swords and all of this. I mean, I was on the air at the time going live where we were covering this, like the landing of the jet, the landing of Air Force One, the whole big, big dinner and the big to-do. I think even the Crown Prince at the time gave President Trump a tiger-skinned robe, killed like a rare tiger skin. So CNN, here was CNN. Let's put up this CNN on Trump in Saudi Arabia. This is how CNN wrote it at the time, and this is how. So let's put this up on the screen. It's CNN, if you have it. Let's go back. We skipped over it. Yeah, here it is. It's the Trump doctrine laid bare. This was CNN's take on this. By letting Saudi Arabia get away with the murder of U.S.-based journalist Jamal Khashoggi, the president sent a message of startling clarity about how the United States will conduct its business in the world. Trump effectively told global despots that if they side with him, Washington will turn a blind eye to actions that infringe traditional U.S. values. Trump made clear that Washington has a price, that principles that generations of Americans have cherished are for sale. Like we're selling ourselves. It doesn't matter about Khashoggi. We're just selling our soul to this. And, again, the New York Times then took this on as well. And I'm going to read this from the New York Times. This was on Trump as well. Trump stands up for Saudi Arabian values. This was how the New York Times played it, right? And here is the full screen from the New York Times. If we want to take this, I think, do we have that one or no? But yeah, so again, all sorts of liberal publications were taking the president to task. You're literally cozying up with this regime, right? And it's actually kind of funny. If you take my laptop, Philip, this was yesterday. This was Jean-Pierre. This was the White House press secretary, basically calling the Saudis a regime. This let slip. She slipped out with this one. White House press secretary Karine Jean-Pierre came very close to committing the cardinal sin of referring to a U.S.-aligned nation as a regime on Monday. Basically, you don't believe they're a democracy. You don't believe they're a country on par with us. You believe they're a regime. You're a terrorist regime.
Well, and go back to that shot. Even the sign language lady is saying, "No, stop."
yeah, look at that. Yeah, look at that on my laptop.
Well, okay, but then why would he do this, right? When all of the American press is saying, you said you wouldn't go there, right? We have the tape that we just rolled, right? Well, the White House, in an official statement, says that while in Saudi Arabia, the president will discuss a range of bilateral, we have this on screen if you want to put up, there we go.
What's the name of it?
No, it's called White House.
White House, okay.
Maybe we don't have it. That's okay. So the White House gives us this sort of gobbledygook of he will discuss means for expanding regional economic and security cooperation, including new and promising infrastructure and climate initiatives, as well as deterring threats from Iran, advancing human rights. Like it's just a blah, 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 right? Just a bunch of like political speak of what he's going to do there, which, okay, that's like what you expect from a press release. But why does he need to do it in person? Well, here's why. Because Saudi Arabia has already told the U.S. no to what it wants. So the U.S. asked Saudi Arabia in February to pump more oil, and they said no. If you take this full screen here that says rejection, that one, yep. This was reported back in February that the U.S. said, we want you to pump more oil because we have a supply problem. We don't want to hit high gas prices. Why would Saudi Arabia say no? Because they don't want to flood the market with too much oil. They have a set amount that they will export according to OPEC, which keeps their profit margins at a safe place. And they do not want to flood the market with oil, which lowers their profit margin just because the United States asked, and they're not super happy with the United States anyway. So why would they do this if they don't have to? Well, here's another thing that the U.S. is worried about is Saudi Arabia becoming friends with China. In March, the Wall Street Journal reported that Saudi Arabia is willing to sell oil to China in yuan, right? Yuan. So according to the Wall Street Journal, China buys more than 25% of the oil that Saudi Arabia exports. If priced in yuan, those sales would boost the standing of China's currency. The Saudis are also considering including the yuan-denominated futures contract known as the petro yuan. You don't like the way I'm saying that? How would you say this word? Petro yuan.
Yeah, you're
okay. So they're worried that they will factor this into the pricing model of Saudi Arabian oil company known as Aramco. So this is we're following the money, right? Because the United States has said, will you please open up more oil? They said no. And then they're not answering the calls, right, of the United States, but they are picking up the phone to China, and they're willing to discuss this petro yuan, right? So now the Saudi rial is pegged to the US dollar. So Saudi Arabia wouldn't do anything really to harm the dollar, but maybe they're hedging their bets, which begs the question, what would the world look like if the petro yuan became the oil industry's currency of choice instead of the dollar? So that's why, obviously, the president will take some egg on his face for going against a campaign promise to give Saudi Arabia the cold shoulder, if it means protecting the American hegemony of oil and dollars and preventing China from doing that.
Yeah, but there's a history here. I mean, and look, I mean, again, we talked about Trump, but it goes back to Obama and Biden. So the enormous cache of sophisticated weapons. So let's put up this Glenn Greenwald piece. This reminds us all about the cozying up to these guys. So, you know, Biden, when he was there with Obama, they did this. So here's Glenn Greenwald's piece we can put on the screen. It says, beyond the enormous cache of sophisticated weapons, Obama Biden transferred to the Saudis to use against Yemen and anyone else they decided to target. The Snowden archive revealed that Obama ordered significant increases in the amount and the type of intelligence technologies and raw intelligence provided by the NSA to the Saudi regime. The intelligence was and is used by Saudi autocrats not only to identify Yemeni bombing targets, but also to subject its own domestic population to rigid, virtually ubiquitous surveillance, a regime of monitoring used to brutally suppress any dissent or opposition to the Saudi regime.
Well, okay, but that is more recent history. In a book about the sort of the establishment of the dollar as a dominant currency, author David Spiro, in his book Hidden Greed, The American Hegemony, talks about how Saudi Arabia was really responsible for the dollar being the basis of oil exchange because Saudi Arabia went around to its neighbors and convinced them to sell oil on the dollar instead of whatever other currency they wanted. So if Saudi Arabia established the dollar as global currency, they can unestablish it too, possibly, right? I mean, this is a possibility, but it's a possibility that this administration, and in fact, any American administration, will want to prevent.
I want to take Caitlin Johnstone's take on this because I thought this was great. All of this talk about American hegemony and our sort of like oil for dollars and US dollars, and we're going to go to Chinese yuan and all of this. She takes a step back and says, well, wait a second, all of this hand-wringing about this, that actually Mohammed bin Salman sullies Saudi Arabia's good name with actually plans to meet U.S. president. Like she's taking the opposite strategy on this, the opposite tact. And then she goes on to say in a tweet or in a piece that she wrote this morning, all this hand-wringing about a U.S. president visiting a Saudi leader overlooks the fact that the Biden administration openly acknowledges the presence of thousands of U.S. troops in Saudi Arabia, and that the U.S. already actively collaborates with Saudi royalty in myriad ways with immensely far-reaching consequences. More to the point, though, the controversy over Biden's meeting with MBS ignores the fact that the U.S. is quantifiably a far more murderous and tyrannical regime than Saudi Arabia. After all, we're supplying their weapons that they're using to attack Syria.
Yes,
Yemen.
yeah.
Right? So we are like by a landslide. And it's amazing. I like her sort of take on this. It's like the inverse of we're worried about us interacting with him, who is a murderous tyrant. By no stretch of the imagination does it even come close to Biden's track record on this. And
right. I mean, not to mention
Iraq.
all the recent drone strikes that are killing civilians, and the United States answer is mistakes were made, right?
Right.
We don't get a lack of ability. I don't know. I don't like this, like comparing killing. Like, well, they kill too. You know, I don't think that's productive.
But the press on the American side is, well, you better be careful. You heard from a number of Democrats over the past 24 hours who came out. They're like, I don't know if this is a good move for you right now, Joe. Like they were interviewed in a number of different press pieces over the past 24 hours, hey, the president is going to go there. A number of Democrats came forward like, things are pretty bad right now. I don't know if you want to add another pain point right now. A bad PR. They're calling it like a bad PR move. Like Chris Murphy, Democrats saying it's like a bad PR move right now. Yeah, we don't want you to go see the guy.
Our actions already led to Russia going off the U.S. dollar and going to the ruble. So, like now, a country they're going to see in other countries that have been thinking, "Gosh, I wish we could do that. We're so dependent on this dollar that's becoming less and less valuable." And like Putin does it, and then all of a sudden his economy is flourishing from it. So, maybe more people will do it now.
Well, a number of countries are starting to look at doing that, right?
Well, yes,
Yeah.
that's why we have a Cold War that we've been discussing at length.
Yeah.
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 All right. Shall we talk about do our last story or?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I want to talk about this sanitary product story. And Clayton was a little bit squeamish about it. And I'm going to tell you to get the F over yourself because if women did not menstruate, you would not exist.
I would not be here. I get that. I'm not squeamish about it. I'm very aware of like the kind of stuff that, gets you deplatformed, and it's kind of crazy. That's where we're at right now in this modern big tech oligarchy. So you give me cross-eyed views when I suggest like we're going to do this story and you're like, I don't know, are they going to ban us for this?
We can talk about a national supply shortage of sanitary products.
Okay.
I didn't bring any to demonstrate. Right? I'm not going to talk about gender. I'm only going to talk about the fact that there is a shortage of products that disproportionately affect women, such as baby formula, right? Because women are usually the primary caregivers of babies, and sanitary products. Okay, so this is happening and it is only just coming to our attention. Before we get there, let's get an update from the White House on baby formula shortage.
So I have two questions on baby formula. So first, what is the latest update the White House has received on the current infant formula situation across the country?
Yeah, let me see if I have anything new for you on that. So I think it's been a couple of days since we have been asked that question. Okay. I don't have anything new. I know we made some announcements last week. I just don't have them in front of me.
Okay, I have something new. So just before we went to air, I was watching the Senate congressional testimony about this baby formula shortage. The Senate is considering enacting the Sherman Act to give itself more regulation over the baby formula industry, which is interesting, right? Because government regulation is very much what caused the baby formula shortage. Now, it was one factory or one company that had this problem with bacteria that was harming babies.
Abbott Foods.
But why was there only one formula? Why is 80% of the baby formula market coming out of two or three companies? Well, economist Scott Lincecum today testified before Congress, and he made the point that it's actually government regulation that caused this shortage, not free market rules. But the Senate wants to use the Sherman Act to give itself more regulation over the industry. But it was really the government that caused this. He makes the point that the federal government has allowed market concentration by making huge barriers of entry into the market, high regulation, fees, red tape, and a ban on exports. Now, here he lays out his argument, and I did screen grab this movie, but because it was live, the audio is a little bit tinny because I was just capturing it as he was speaking. But he talks about how the FDA in recent years has shut down imports of European formula. So can we play what he's saying and play the volume? Do you have it?
Yeah, can somebody restart it on your end?
Oh, okay.
Oh, sorry.
Said that they prefer the quality or the content or simply the recipe of your.
He's saying here that moms prefer European formulas.
To that.
Sorry, keep going.
No fussy tummies and the rest, as I think parents in this room can certainly understand. They have sought to import that product, but because of FDA restrictions, because of those tariffs, no European producers are willing to expend the time and capital needed to establish distribution channels, get into supermarkets. So instead, there's this gray market out there for European baby formula that goes through third-party retailers. Now, that market was pretty healthy, no pun intended, until a couple years ago when the FDA started cracking down on European product. Customs started seizing and destroying formula at the border. The FDA issued a major recall because certain products, the labels weren't exactly like the FDA wanted, or the scoopers were a slightly different size. Never mind that those third-party retailers were actually translating instructions, giving the conversions and the rest.
That's so we're really concerned about like the metric system. Like that's the reason we couldn't get baby formula.
And literally destroyed it, right? So American consumers wanted it, not just because the babies responded better, but because there are certain ingredients and chemicals that are banned in Europe that are not banned in the United States. For instance, high fructose corn syrup is not allowed in Europe. It is allowed in baby formula in the United States. So it's no wonder that moms wanted to import their formula, but the government purposely made it harder, right? Instead of maybe ban these chemicals in American formulas, no, they had to make it harder for moms to get the more preferred formulas, right? And because they didn't meet the labeling standards, he goes on to argue, and it's worth watching. He did a fantastic job to argue that the United States could, in fact, rely on overseas regulatory bodies where they don't have a problem, like Australia, where the formula is high quality, and just accept the Australian certification of formula and import. But the government really doesn't want to do that. What the government wants to do is use this shortage to give itself more regulatory powers when it was really government perversion of the free market that caused this. So that's pretty infuriating, don't you think?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I mean, I heard, Robert Reich talk about this, not, a huge fan, but what he had to say about this was pretty interesting. Abbott Foods specifically, yes, they have a monopoly on food. Like, why do we not have more sources of baby food in the United States? Like, let alone the European imports of baby food, like in food. And that's one piece of this, right? So the illegal customs breaking it down and smashing it and getting rid of it, the FDA. Why do we not have more competition in the United States? Why is there like one brand on the friggin' shelf filled with high fructose corn syrup?
Right.
I wonder why. Just think about it for a second. If you understand the way that Congress works and the subsidies and the way that these guys pay members of Congress through lobbying efforts, there's a reason why there's a hegemony from this big company.
Well, and now I think we will see this played out in terms of sanitary products. And one thing that bothers me the most about media coverage about this is the media coverage will tell you, well, there's nowhere to turn. Women don't know what to do with their babies, and fathers too, obviously, right? But that's not necessarily the case. Baby formula is relatively new to humanity, right? And women in the past who could not nurse, and I want to sort of acknowledge that that has always been the case, that there are some women who could not nurse, but in the past, women had a community and they wet nursed each other's babies.
There's a lot of shaming going on. There's a lot of women who cannot nurse, right? Because there's like, well, why don't you just nurse? Like the hippies will say that. Well, the fact of the matter is, a lot of women try to nurse and they physically can't, or they have some sort of an issue that they just can't do it. So they try and they try and they try and they give up, and then they have to turn to formula.
Well, in fact, this is happening, right? So if you look at this most recent article, it says women are volunteering to wet nurse each other's babies. But the mainstream media is not telling us this because the headline that, oh, your baby's going to starve is more clickable. In fact, a group called Human Milk for Human Babies calls milk sharing nature's contingency plan. And I just want to make the point, we're here. This is it. If we need a contingency plan, it's for this moment, right? So why isn't the media promoting these solutions? In fact, I was a pretty good producer of milk, and I looked into sharing my milk with other moms, but there's a high barrier to that because you have to get it tested and like make sure, I don't know, like I'm not exactly sure but that never was the case in terms of like history. I think this has to do with business. And I think similarly, right, the media may or may not pick up on a shortage of sanitary products.
So, okay, so the media, I agree with you, then you make a good point, which is it's the business aspect of it. If they start telling you, if they start telling you, hey, you don't need to use Similac or whatever the brand is, you can just use your neighbor. Well, there's no money in that.
Well, yes. And that's problematic enough because of the sort of fragmented way in which we live, right? And not everyone has a community of mommies. And some people, think of, I try and think of my friend who her husband was sent all over the world, and she moved to Japan and Germany and all of these places, and she didn't know anybody, and she wouldn't have had an opportunity to say who else is nursing at this time when I'm nursing, right? And so that's not necessarily the case. But now on to nature's contingency plan for menstruation, right? Reusable items exist. In fact, single-use disposable menstruation products are a relatively new phenomenon. The factory-made tampon is not even 100 years old. And in fact, according to the Embryo Project Encyclopedia, in ancient Rome, women made similar devices to the tampon from wool. While ancient Indonesian women used vegetable fibers, women in Africa made such devices from grass, and ancient Japanese women created similar devices from paper. So could I do this if I had to?
Mm-hmm. Papyrus?
I'm sure I could. That'd be pretty itchy.
Ancient Chinese secret.
But we don't have to, right? Today we have the menstrual cup, which is not single use, which in my view should have a Nobel Prize. It is a Nobel Prize worthy device. I could talk a blue streak about how awesome the Diva Cup is, but I won't. We have reusable pads that are made from sustainable material like bamboo. I also have a collection of those for when my daughters begin to menstruate. We have menstrual underwear, which have come a long way. I'd be happy to talk to you about this. And this is not an educational product, about what our options are. But I want to say, why won't we discuss reducing dependence on single-use objects in the same breath as the discussion about shortages? Is it for the same reason that the media doesn't promote any solutions about formula? Is it because the media doesn't want to wean you off of their sponsors, like Procter & Gamble, which makes pads and tampons?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great point. And you just go to, you go to these stores. I don't know, we're looking at video right now of these are a lot of the different stores that are empty, like all of these bare shelves right now from these main products. So is it a shortage from cotton?
Yes,
what's
these
the issue?
products are made of plastic, right? Which takes a lot of manufacture. It takes oil to make plastics, which we have a shortage of. It takes cotton to make a lot of these. It takes pesticides. You may not know this, but the cotton that you use for these sanitary products had to have pesticides on it when it was grown. So that is also put next to your lady parts. It takes oil to deliver those things to the store. It takes labor, which also there's a shortage of, right? So it stands to reason that this particular product would be especially susceptible to supply chain issues. But I think that it's important that every time we talk about this, we remind ourselves that there are sustainable, not single-use products that could, and in fact, there are charities that focus on getting the menstrual cup or reusable products to impoverished women all over the world. Because even if you can buy a tampon, a box of tampons is expensive, and it adds up really fast. And so
I think also,
yeah, go ahead.
We kind of live in a fast food society, so I think like a lot of people see single use as much easier and reusable as just more difficult to adapt to because they're so used to everything going so fast.
Yes, yeah, but I also think it's really a bummer to just go out and drop $5 or $6 on a box of tampons, and I've been there, and it's also really not a bummer when you don't ever have to do that. You just keep your menstrual cup with you, and it's it's a lack of education.
I only buy them
and
if I have a cold, so.
For his nose, yeah.
I think
the problem I have, is that you're hitting on the point where, we're talking about these big products, these companies that lobby Congress, that give members of Congress a ton of money, like the Procters and Gambles of the world, right? The Bayers of the world. They just give an enormous amount of money to Congress. And then what they do is that when we bail them out, they take that money and they buy their own shares back. They don't clean up their bacteria like Abbott Foods didn't. They had the opportunity to clean up their plant. They didn't with all the money that they got. And instead, they now are getting extra money from the government to make sure that they're getting these food shortages using the Defense Authorization Act to make sure, like, we're going to ramp up production, doing what we can to ramp this up. All of these big companies that we hear these stories about, they're always these big businesses that are always, it's like they're getting free media coverage also on top of it.
Yes, but I guess, yes, I'm disappointed in the government for its reaction to formula, right? To outlaw healthier European formula, and now say, well, I guess we got to let it through because we regulated to the point where we were over dependent on one company and shoot, babies are getting hurt, right?
Bag asks the question, where can you go for a reusable tampon? And look, I know this is maybe a difficult subject for some guys to hear.
That's not a thing.
It's
really?
not a real thing, but like there is, like, I am supportive of this. There's the Diva cup,
yes,
which women use, or some women use.
It's called the menstrual cup, right? And then there are reusable pads that are made from like charcoal and bamboo that are more natural. They don't have as many chemicals in them. And then there's also the menstrual underwear, which I'm told that young girls are using by themselves. I have not done that, but I'm told that some people are just using these menstrual underwear. But that's, again, you just wash it and you're ready to go, right? And I guess every time we talk about supply chain issues of something, I feel like this is a clue for us to think about, how do I reduce my dependency on the supply chain every single time? So if it's about formula, well, okay, can I maybe, strengthen my community so that I have, or, should I don't know. It's for us to ask personal questions, not complain on YouTube about the government, right? And so we in our house are worried about like water supplies. So we take buckets in the shower and water the garden with it, or, that kind of thing. I'm concerned, obviously.
We need to clarify that a little bit. While the water is heating up, we get, use the buckets, capture the water, so it's not wasting it.
Because we don't take cold showers. We're not that hippie.
Yeah, and then like that, okay, so then we have a bucket, because it'll take like a whole bucket or even more to get like a warm shower, right? So then you use that bucket and use it for other purposes in the house, watering plants and other things like that. So there's a little
we put it in the kettle So I just I wish that the conversation about supply chain ended with a way to empower ourselves, right? There's no eggs, buy a chicken, and that's a metaphor, but we did actually buy chickens. So anything like that, if you're hurting for sanitary products, then this is the inflection point, Get reusable things.
All right. We want to tell you about our friends over at Podium. So we're talking about supply chain issues right now. To increase demand on top of everything else that businesses are dealing with, owners have to manage all of these pieces. And the businesses who are thriving right now are the ones who are actually forward thinking. Podium helps your small business stay ahead of the curve with modern messaging tools to make it easier for your customers to connect with your business. I run a small business, totally separate from this show, and we use this because the texting service, so that like if we want to connect with customers, people want to be able to text with their dentist office and their auto parts person that's going to fix their car and let them know that their car is done. Way more convenient than getting on the phone and having to make an appointment. That's how Podium works. It's super convenient. We were able to, again, with our business, be able to connect with people who say, hey, we noticed one of your web pages has an issue, and they're able to write text on the website right to our own team members and be able to communicate with them to set up an appointment. It's that simple. A lot of people hate calling a business and they would rather send a quick message. I know Natalie and I get in fights about having to call different businesses. They're like, you do it. No, you do it. You do it. No, I don't want to do it. You do it. So if you're running a business, the only way to get in touch with you is a phone number. You need to get Podium. And you're probably losing customers, by the way. Podium gives businesses the tools to compete with the convenience offered by bigger businesses like Amazon. So you, even as a small business, can have the chat tools and the communications tools just like Amazon. Customers love the convenience. Businesses love the results. One car dealer sold a $50,000 truck in just 4 text messages. A jeweler sold a $5,000 ring and coordinated curbside pickup all through text messages. A dentist sent out payment requests through text and received 70% of their outstanding collections in just 2 weeks. So, see how Podium can grow your business today. Watch a demo. Just go to podium.com/redacted. That's podium.com/redacted. Podium. Let's grow your business. All right. Do we have any super chats? We should remind you guys, please, if you're not already subscribed to the channel. David, can you let people know how to, like, the thing about subscribing here on YouTube or Rumble, wherever they are, but specifically YouTube? Like, if the button is a different color, what button does it have to be?
So if the button is gray, you're already subscribed. But if you look down and the button is red, you are not subscribed. So click the red subscribe button, and then you're going to get an option, hover over the bell, and then you're going to see all feed or something. Select all. And that way you'll get notified every time we go live. YouTube has a horrible track record with notifications, so that's the only way to do it. And then on Rumble, you just hit follow, and it's pretty easy over there.
All right, great. So
and we do have super chats.
All right, let's get to some super chats.
Okay, so we have the new Joe. Low interest rates is one of the major problems. 5 to 10% is the only way that's proven. Oh, you did?
Yeah, we read that. Thank you for that.
Okay. Daniel Edmonds, why do interest rates or corporate taxes matter when nobody pays taxes? Walmart, Amazon, Congra, oil industry, welfare state.
When nobody pays taxes anyway. Well, because the tax law is written as a set of incentives and for businesses, not for you. So don't get excited. And so businesses are able to take advantage of those tax rates and those interest rates and make money, but not pay it into the government.
Mark Andrzak, the USA's collapse is only transitory.
Yeah. It's K-shaped.
Yeah. The Iranian Putin sent us 420 with fire, so we must have hit 420 somewhere. The new Joe, U.S. and ally citizens' lives all changing for the worse.
Feels that way.
Chedamal, greetings from Germany. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, Chedamal.
Styles, Washington, the movie Titanic is a great comparison.
Yeah, we were talking about the Biden administration. Yeah, exactly right. And what's happening with inflation. It's like rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic.
William Olmonovich with a super sticker. Thank you. Anna Roots, collapse everything to implement universal credit. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Graham Goldthrup, Ethereum prices are really giving me gas.
Yeah, Ethereum, Bitcoin.
Where'd you get the gas? No one else
prices, can. The gas, yeah. I mean, crypto. I mean, like they're talking.
Because all you can eat is beans, maybe.
They're talking about a crypto winter. Coinbase is laying off, I think, about 2,000 employees.
Yeah.
Crypto.com is laying off a few hundred employees. A number of the big exchanges. They said basically we overexpanded. We overexpanded. And I heard someone say today in the crypto world, the music has stopped. The music has stopped. Now everyone's looking for a chair. And good luck, because we are headed for this crypto winter.
I don't like hearing that.
Well,
Tuco, Biden wants war with China. His mental state must be questionable. China is not Syria or Afghanistan. They have the ability to fight back. Sorry, Philip.
No, that's okay. I was just gonna say, I heard Coinbase, like they laid off like 18% of their workforce. I think it was.
Yeah.
It was the number that I saw. I mean, it was like something massive, not just like a few. I mean, it was like 18%. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it was like 2,000 people. Yeah.
Thomas T., if Biden gets elected in 2024, we will need a nursing home wing in the White House.
Yeah, they maybe already have it.
Man.
They may already have it. You know, or he's going to need one of those like the chairs that go up the steps. You know, like to do.
Yeah.
It just goes around the Oval Office.
Yeah. And get it for Trump too. Remember, Trump couldn't walk down the ramp. Remember that everyone was making fun of him. He was like tiptoeing down the ramp at that Air Force ceremony or whatever it was.
These are our choices.
He actually talked about that. Did you ever hear that explanation for that? Like how the thing was carpeted and he had the shoes, like they make the dress shoes have such slippery bottoms that he's like, there's no way that I'm going to go down this without falling.
Yeah, he did say, I did. And I know what he's saying.
Meanwhile, Melania, perfectly poised in 5-inch stilettos, is like, please.
Right.
I've been walking runways my whole life. Let me show
That's
you.
because she was jabbing the spike in the carpet on the way down.
Yeah.
J Sauce. I remember Kim Iverson predicting that they would have Kamala take over after 2 years to get people used to her as prez. Could this be the setup? And I hope not.
I don't think so. I don't think that plan. I think it's sort of fallen through.
Yeah, I just don't see. I mean, they're really throwing her into the bus. So I don't. I mean, they're talking about Beto O'Rourke.
I think they were finally like, yeah, we can't.
They pretend she's not even in the room.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah.
With I mean, she is the archetype of the Julia Louis-Dreyfus
Veep character
because she's always trying to like make herself known to the president. You know.
Like, oh, the president's gonna be there. Let me call. Let me come over. Hey, oh, the president's gonna be there. Yeah, they don't want. It's like they've pushed her out. You know, and early on too, they threw her under the bus when it had to relate to the border crisis and other issues. You know.
Nikki the Nose Ricada, Fed funds rates chase bond yields. It's going above 3.50%.
Yeah.
Bolo and April Journey. I used SEA sponges and washable organic cotton pads.
Very good. So did I. We called them mama cloth for a while, but I don't.
And then Ronnie Cole, are you enjoying? Oh, geez, I'm not even going to read that one.
Don't read that one. I saw it. Yeah.
Jess M. Yeah. Jess M. Lots of love from Canada.
Thank you to our Canadian friends.
Thank you, Canada.
Do you think the SEA sponge was like sea sponge? Like SEA?
Yeah, that might be sea sponges. Yeah, that would make sense. Sea sponges. But aren't sea sponges hard though? Like starfish?
I'm
a
going
starfish
to
is different than a sponge.
Google that there are.
I don't think you need to shove a starfish.
But I'm just talking about texture wise. I thought sea sponges were like almost like coral.
Yeah, I don't
That's
know.
because you've only seen them out of the ocean. You've never seen them in the ocean when
Right.
they're out of the.
That could
No, I'm actually like.
Well, but you're going to take them out of the
because
ocean
they dry out
to use them as a tampon.
Okay, if you want to send me that, I am interested in that as a.
You know, in Tarpon Springs, Florida, like all the Greek divers would go down to get sponges, so the sponge divers, that's a big thing. And then they would sell them there on the shops, and they're rough. You know, they're not soft.
You're kind of rocking my world here. It's a sea sponge tampon. That's awesome.
You found it?
Yeah. Huh. Thank you.
Sea sponges are
letting me know
very
about
soft, William Wallace says. I guess when I would like go to like Tarpon Springs and they have them out in the things that you can like touch them and see, they're in the sun, so they're hard. And like just when you get them wet, then it's not. It's like a normal sponge, I would think.
Yeah.
I don't know. Interesting.
Huh. Interesting, yeah.
Huh. Didn't know these existed.
Yeah,
Thank you. I thought I had all the hippie period gear.
Do not use a starfish.
No,
Just
that
put
wouldn't work.
out there. Or one of those blowfishes, that they
don't use
a puffer fish.
Yeah, don't use anything
you could use
alive.
a starfish if it were still alive. Starfish would work if it's still alive because they're soft. But
yeah,
guys, no, just no to all of that.
Sand dollar.
Okay. I guess we're out of our element.
Yeah.
Seahorse. All right, everyone. We want to thank you guys so much for subscribing and being a part of our show here on Redacted. We do this show Monday through Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time is the time that we do it. So we will be back here tomorrow. Please.
No, I won't. I have book club, so I'm taking the night off.
So she's out of here tomorrow.
Yeah.
So then I don't have anyone here in studio to give me dirty looks when I bring up something that she doesn't want to talk about.
I'll give you dirty looks.
Okay.
I'll give you dirty looks tomorrow.
I mean, I do it all the time. You just can't see me.
That's right.
Just to him, right?
Well,
All right.
Yes.
Obviously.
Thank you for joining us, everybody. We've enjoyed your comments and your participation.
I have one more thing. We do have a daily newsletter, though.
Yes.
Every morning. So we had a couple hundred people sign up yesterday, and I'm thrilled about it because we put a lot of hard work into it. And David's working on the website. It's not updated yet, but it's still morninginvest.com is the website. So it's our old name of our old show, but it's going to be changing to Redacted as soon as David does it with our team. But it's right now, it's morninginvest.com. So go there and sign up. And it's a newsletter. Covers about 5 or 6 stories. We try to have some fun, but we also try to cover stories you're probably not going to see other places or in the way that we would cover it. And you can read it over your cup of coffee or your hot tea in the morning, and it'll take you about 5-10 minutes. You can read it in the bathroom, when you're getting ready for work or whatever. And it's totally free. So it'll be delivered to your email inbox. And we usually...
That's when I read it.
Oh, I know. A lot of our readers read it.
As I'm putting stuff out, I'm taking stuff in. Yeah.
How many people watching right now read our Morning Invest newsletter in the bathroom? I just want to know. And I should say, like I said, it's free. It's delivered to your email inbox. So you just open up your email in the morning, and around 6:30 a.m. Eastern time is when we publish it. We try to do a great job. And Natalie does a lot of the writing. I do a lot of the editing, and I add the humor. And I was waiting to see if you pay attention to that. And
there's that dirty look.
Exactly.
There it is.
You never know. I never know.
I'm giving you one too. Can you feel it?
Yeah. All the best parts written by me. All right, everyone. We'll see you again tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern time. Thanks so much for subscribing. Bye, everyone.